this is Chek. Welcome to my video blog. Today I'd like to share what I refer to as the I, we, all of love in my PPS Success Mastery program. It's very, very evident to those who have done any kind of study on the issue of relationships, love, and the way we love and how we manage ourselves that most of our underlying concepts and themes in the West in particular are what are referred to as JudeoChristian, or the concepts expressed in the Abrahamic religions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, which have very similar undertones in them if you look under the superficial elements of them. One of the common things that we see running through those religions is that we should give ourselves away in service to others. Jesus was a poor carpenter who gave everything away for everybody else, etc. Without going into a long dissertation on that, there's some real truths and some real dangers in that. There is certainly something beautiful about giving yourself in support of another individual or a collective. Without that, we would not be able to do anything in the world. I think we could all agree upon that. But when it comes right down to understanding the, shall we say, dangers of misunderstanding that concept, we're in a situation today where many people have serious health challenges. In fact, the most common cause I see of women with breast cancer is giving everything and doing everything for everybody else and downplaying the need to nourish themselves or allow others to nourish them. That's a classic example of what happens when we live that way. I also have many cases of people coming to me with all sorts of health problems, and when we start exploring it, I hear reams of excuses about, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that, I've got to do this for this person, that for that person, I got to go do this. And so we get, I have to, and what do you got? Now you've got somebody that has to come see someone for health care support because they've got cancer or some disease, and that I have to process can take you right to the grave, because if you don't change the behaviors that burned you out, no pill in the world will teach you how to live. It'll only suppress the symptoms of a belief system that is now bringing you into awareness that a change is needed, which can only come through awareness and awakening. So here in my diagram, I've used my bicycle diagram from my previous blog. Again, when you're by yourself on a bike, you can do what you want, you can go where you want to go. You're basically under your own control and influence. If you fall off, it's your fault. If you don't arrive, it's your fault. If you do arrive, it's your fault. If you arrive with a smile, it's because you created one. If you arrive with a frown, it's because you created that too. Once we start getting involved in a we relationship, our energies are always moving back and forth, and if the transfer of energies is not reciprocal or balanced, then somebody's always getting depleted in the relationship. Somebody's always kind of burning out at the expense of others. And metaphysically speaking, and speaking from the perspective of healing as a therapist, it's very, very well known, even in scientific circles, that when you put a bunch of people in a room, the strongest person's energy will always flow to the weakest people in the room. L. Ron Hubbard called it the tone principle. So there's a concept, and he showed mathematically and even scientifically, in a sense, that if you measured the vitality level of an individual, or even the happiness level, the sense of happiness or congruence with what they were doing, and let's say it was high, he used a 4-point scale. If someone walked into the room that was a 1, he showed consistently the person at a 4 would be pulled down towards 2, and the person at a 1 would be pulled up towards 2. So then you end up with what was a happy person meeting a miserable person, and now you've got two mundane people. So the answer is, know that if you don't have the energy to participate equally or better in a relationship, you are sucking the life out of those that do. And if that keeps going on, they start to avoid you or be busy all the time or not return texts and emails, or if you're a healthcare professional or an exercise professional, they often wait till you're on vacation to go try somebody else and then make up excuses why they're not coming back. And I'll get into some more. When we're dealing with all, we're now dealing with 3 or more. So speaking spiritually, our first responsibility is to ourselves. Our second responsibility is to the people we have key relationships with as individuals, such as me and my brother, me and my sister, me and my mother, etc. And our third responsibility comes whenever there's a third person. So as a couple, as soon as you have a child, you've now put yourself at the spiritual level of responsibility as a teacher, a leader, a guide. That child will emulate you for better or for worse, and that means that you've now added a unit of a social structure that's either going to add to the milieu of society or it's going to be a negative force in society. So going to the all level of responsibility is extremely important, because when people have not grown enough, healed enough, and explored themselves enough to be healthy in we relationships, and then they try to add a child as a bonding factor, they don't realize they're gluing 2, shall we say, crooked legs together, which still makes a crooked leg, which means the outcome is going to be another crooked leg as a metaphor. So it's very important also in personal relationships and business relationships not to get yourself involved in the dealings of, or the gossip of, or the dirty laundry of all these other people out here, because often the ego gets involved in other people's dirty laundry as a means of avoiding responsibility for itself, which I'll point out why in a moment. There's some very good benefits to understanding this philosophy, and believe me, it's the only way I've been able to survive 32 years as underneath the guise of the healthcare or healer archetype, or caregiver archetype, if you will, which is always about doing something for other people, and for me, large numbers of people. And if I didn't have the strength to care for myself, I would have been eaten up and spit out a long time ago. And I've watched many get burnt out in this profession, and as professional presenters all over the world, giving. And what they don't realize is that at least Jesus knew how to meditate and had a connection with his own soul and great spirit to fulfill him. But people that act like Jesus on the outside but don't do the work of Jesus on the inside end up, shall we say, getting stapled to the cross a lot sooner than they're ready for. So some simple tips. Remember, your I is always 50% of a we. So if I am having a relationship with my wife, I always bring a potential 50% to the relationship, and she brings 50% to the relationship, because the we is made of the two of us. Where a lot of relationships get in trouble is if you show up in a relationship and you're not truly present in the relationship because you're monkey minding or fretting over this or that, or not paying attention, or you're pretending to be interested in the relationship but you're really not there. There's a paradox that emerges. If a relationship is a 50% me and 50% you, and I show up and I'm only 40% there, it creates a 20% deficit, because the 10% that I'm not present means there's 10% of me that you can't connect to either. Therefore, you're looking at me and nodding at me as if I'm really there, but in my head I'm busy making up a counter argument instead of listening or thinking about what I'd rather be doing. So every time you show up in a we relationship as less than fully present, you not only magnify the deficit by your own absence, but you double it, because that person cannot connect to the part of you that you're unwilling to give in honor of the relationship. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to we, I is 50% of we, and I and we equals X% of all. So you are the only one that can provide to a we or an all. If there was no you, this discussion wouldn't matter. If there was no you, there would be no need for a we. But when people start worrying about issues of the world, or issues of the church, or issues of their group, or saving the whales, or saving the trees, whatever power you have to make change within yourself, and to manage yourself and to create in your own life is exactly how much power or energy or awareness or resources you have to share with the all, which goes from 3 to infinity. So one who is already depleted and not well managed, trying to help the all, is taking less than one and trying to give it to the many, which means no matter what story you're telling yourself on the inside, you're not really making much of a contribution other than just a lot of hot air. That's just being honest. And I witness this everywhere I go, because all these people are coming with all their grand ideas about saving the world. I'm like, how about getting yourself in shape? How about eating some real food? How about loving yourself as much as you say you love the trees? What's the point of saving the trees and killing a human? Right? It's the same story with vegetarianism and veganism and, oh, we don't want to kill an animal. Right, but when you look at most of these people, they're unhealthy, burned out, bags under their eyes, parasite problems, fungal problems, whatever. And it could be meat eaters too. It's not about them. It's just about the dogma. So what do? You saved a pig and you killed a human. Well, pigs aren't going to help the problems of water shortages. Pigs aren't going to help balance the awareness of the greenhouse effect, fossil fuels, toxicity in the environment. We need to be all hands on deck for this project, and burning yourself out to save the pig ain't going to do a damn thing, or to save the trees. But when you've got something to share and you got some real life force in you, all you got to do is look at the movers and shakers of humanity, like Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Gandhi. A lot of these people had a lot of inner strength, inner reserve, so they could rise up to the level of the all and really make a difference. But none of those people were people that did not respect themselves and have self-integrity. So the key thing is, remember, the bigger the grandiose group you're trying to help or concept, the less you have to give in totality, unless you really make something significant of yourself. Call this an elephant. If you're trying to take down the elephant of animal abuse or the elephant of child abuse or whatever your elephant is, if you're not well prepared, then you're shooting at the elephant with a spitball. But if you become a Buddha in your own right, someone who loves life enough to fully live it, then you become a force to be reckoned with. And, you can shoot at snakes, but if you know how to charm them, they just behave and do exactly what you ask them to do. And that's the power that can't be measured. And that's what a Buddha or a master really represents. So, some tips. I before we or all. That's what I've just shared with you. That's just how it works out there. Energetically, it's scientifically proven. When it comes to mastering your I, concepts like I have to before I choose to is a bit of a problem, because what you'll see is people have a million I have tos. I have to excuses. Oh, I have to do this. I have to go to that job. I have to go to school at night. They always tell me why they have to do what they're doing that's making them sick. That's a cop-out. First thing we got to do to heal is remember, whenever you the words I have to should immediately be replaced as I choose to. None of us has to do anything. We all have choice. You don't have to breathe. You don't have to eat. You don't have to wipe your butt. You don't have to exercise. You don't have to sleep. You don't have to do anything. We all choose to, and until we learn to accept responsibility for our choices, we are not yet an adult. We are children, and children acting out adult roles leads to lots of problems in the world, as I think we could probably all agree. So I have to becomes I choose to, and your choices should be dream affirmative. If you keep saying I have to, and it's negating your dream, it means that you're doing some very ineffective dream weaving, and you're probably modeling your parents or some other role model that it would be a good idea to get through PPS Lesson 1 and into PPS Lesson 2 so you can learn how to reprogram that story in your head. That's a dysfunctional, painful story to keep living out. So it helps to know what your dream is, so you're clear about what you're choosing, because if you know what your dream is, you have choices to make with regard to how you use your time, what you identify as happy making, what food you're going to eat, how much rest you're going to give yourself and what type, and how you're going to move your body, move your finances, move your emotions, move your mind, and move your love. To have a clear awareness of your dream and be conscious of what you're choosing means to be a conscious person. An enlightened person is one who is fully responsible for their choices, is in touch with reality, and isn't telling themselves stories that are disabling, and is open-minded enough to listen when it's worth listening and speak when speaking has value. People that keep leaning on the I have to are actually living out their nightmare, and since the mind reproduces itself in the body to the degree that you have I have to yourself into a nightmare, I have to stay married to this man I don't like, I have to stay in this relationship because blah, 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 you have now become one or all of these. If you look into Carolyn Meiss's survival archetype, she explains this very beautifully. I have to makes you a victim. It means somebody else is controlling your life. Unless you're a slave, and if you think you're a slave, then you're still in a bad dream, then you have to take responsibility. Each of these archetypes is there to teach us what it feels like to be that, so we're aware of when we're doing it to ourselves or other people. And when you've learned the lesson, you learn to say, I choose to instead of I have to. If you keep thinking you have to do things, especially for money, then you are activating the prostitute archetype, and you will live the life of a prostitute. You'll have lots of sex and get slapped around and treated like an object. Well, I have to, I have to, I have to, it equals prostitution. Or you will sabotage your own spiritual growth or your own possibility to create your dream. For example, if you say, I have to stay in this relationship with this person, or ... or my kids, or whatever, well, then all you're doing is teaching your kids how to live that way. So what you're doing is you're sabotaging the opportunity for your kids to learn what it means to really take responsibility for themselves. You're sacrificing your ability to become spiritually aware of who and what you are, and you're sacrificing your own dreams. Also, to say I have to is to put yourself square in the archetype of the child, which means you're not willing to take responsibility for the choices that you're making. And then you can end up sitting in church asking Jesus or God or whatever your favorite idol is to come save you. And so far, that's not working very well. We've been playing that game for about as long as the tree's been around, and the trees are doing better than we are. At least they don't light their own forest fires. They're smarter than that. So when we keep on playing all these games, we're perpetually lighting ourselves on fire and blaming it on somebody else. Being a victim, a prostitute, a saboteur, or a child is like eating poison and expecting somebody else to die. It never works. Okay? Now, to truly love others, we must first love ourselves. As Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true, or thou canst be true to any other man. And this is just good, solid, common sense. So, if you really do want to love others, and you really do want to contribute to the world, and you do want to be a good Christian, a good Muslim, someone that beautifully practices the Jewish faith, or Buddhism, or Taoism, or Shinto, or Baha'i, or whatever feels like it represents who you are, then nourish yourself first, and you will have the authentic energy, empathy, and compassion to share. To the degree that it's really important to you to love your kids, then be a wise, loving example of what it looks like to say no when you need to say no, to exercise when you need to exercise, to eat when you need to eat, to sleep when you should be sleeping. Put them down with you. My parents, when I was a kid, put us all to bed at 7 o'clock at night, whether we liked it or not. And that was right up until I was in my teen years. So for me, I would sit in my bedroom and I would listen to classical music, read books, meditate, and that's how I found out that I had some interesting abilities. All of a sudden I was having out-of-body experiences, and I learned that I could actually leave my body. So interestingly enough, I hated being stuck in my bedroom, but the captivity event triggered off something inside of me that led me to having this experience of being able to leave my body. And that's when some of my spiritual awakening started to happen, was in captivity. And then I found out I had the ability to do remote viewing, practice that, and those types of skills grew. So all I'm saying is our pains and our confinements and our challenges are like an egg that we as chickens have to break out of to fly, and the pressure of being confined gave me an opportunity to find ways to nourish myself. I left my body in the room, but my spirit was gone, and lo and behold, it turned out to be a great gift that later was a tool that I've used to help untold numbers of people. So, yes, once you take care of yourself and have empathy and compassion for yourself, you know what it means to have empathy and compassion, and then you know how to give that to somebody else. But you can never give genuine empathy or compassion to somebody else if you can't give it to yourself. What you can do is write rubber checks. What you can do is nod your head, smile, and give hugs, and in your head you're going, oh Christ, I'm so tired of listening to this bullshit, I can't wait to get out of here. That's not love, that's not connection, that's this. And masquerading with a mask on, which means you don't know who you are and no one else does either, which leads the world to be a one where everybody loves watching soap operas and mob wives and baseball wives and what I call stupid shit on television, which just seems so popular. I mean, they wouldn't be publishing the crap if people weren't buying into it. So if we want to make any legitimate change in the world, the first place you can do it for sure is in yourself, and to the degree that you think love, relationships, religion, society, and culture are important, you will demonstrate that by being the change and being a manifestation of the beauty of whatever your philosophy is. Anything else is victimhood, prostitution, sabotage, or eternally being a child instead of an adult. And it gets to be a problem when you got bills to pay and responsibilities and you're still acting out the child. It's really simple at the end of the day. This is what How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy is about. This is what my last 4 doctors you'll ever need, How to Get Healthy Now ebook is about. This is what PPS Success Mastery Training is about. This is what my 1, 2, 3, 4 for overcoming addiction, obesity, and disease is about, and it takes you much deeper than this. It's audio, 9 hours of audio, self-help workbook, and teaches you a lot about what love really is. Thank you for joining me today. Hey, I'm going to go love me now. I'll see you soon.